Hello, good evening. This is another opportunity this afternoon to talk about basic toxicology. This is going to be the second contact hour on basic toxicology. Today, we are coming on a very good note, and what we are going to do today, I'm going to spend just a few minutes making presentation. Then you are going to now take your pen and paper, and you are going to do a task in which must be submitted within the period we are going to spend here. Once I log out, we are logging out entirely. So if you are submitting thereafter, that means you won't have the opportunity to be graded. Life with me, I have seven students I have with me, and I want to believe that before the end of this presentation, we will be able to have more that will be coming online. Now, don't forget what we said about basic toxicology. This time around, all the um, case studies and examples we are going to talk about today, they are going to be with respect to Nigerian situation or what really happened in Nigeria. So our case study is not going to be any other place, but case study of what happened in Nigeria. So we are going to see this, which include all this. Then in this presentation, I've made nothing less than three different definitions for each term. So now let's just talk about basic toxicology. I told you that when we say what is toxicology? Toxicology is the science of studying the impact of poison on the environment as well as a human being. And the last lecture, I made mention of what is called the dose response relationship. That is, the higher the dosage, the higher the level of toxin or the level of poison or the chances that the person will be poisoned. So we are going to see all this as we go on. Now, just like I said, I told you that as a as a scientist, you should be able to, or as a as a toxicologist, sorry, as a toxicologist, you should have nothing less than three different definitions for each term. Okay, and that's why I said definition of toxicology. It is the scientific study of poison and their effect on living organism. So don't forget that when we are talking of poison, depending on the sources, depending on the dosage, depending on the time or the route of exposure, all these are what should be taken into consideration. So once you are looking at what poison are, what are their sources, and what are going to be the effect on both living, I mean, on living organism, that is, because even if you are studying the impact on the environment, at the end of the day, we are going to be discussing that with respect to the living organism or the life around. Then it is a branch of science that deal with harmful effect of chemicals. As I told you, the source of that poison is very, very important. The source could be from chemicals, it could be from biological agents like a microorganism, like animals, like a pollen grains, like plants, and so on. Or it could be as a result of physical agents. So this is another definition of toxicology. The third definition is that it is the study of the adverse effects of substances on human health and the environment. That is another definition. So whatever way, whichever way you choose to define toxicology, you should just define it that it is the study of poison, the study of the harmful effects, the study of adverse effects of any substance. That substance could be biological, it could be chemicals, it could be the route of exposure, it could be any. But once you are trying to measure the impact indirectly, you are practicing toxicology. Now, what are the importance of toxicology in environmental biology? As an environmental biologist, how important is discourse to you? Number one, it helps in identifying potential hazard and environmental risks. Identification of potential hazard and what might be the environmental risk. Don't forget that I told you that there's going to be a section that will be devoted for quiz, essay quiz here, and it is going to be in between the slide. So, and once I pass that slide and I won't go back to it again. That's why I want everybody to get ready so that by the time I get to the point where the slide, where the quiz is, it's not going to actually pose any problem for me, for anybody again. Then number two, the importance of toxicology in environmental biology is that it provides insights. It helps us to understudy. It gives us a clue into the effect of pollutants and chemicals on ecosystem and human health. So we are going to see some of these. As I said, our example we are going to look at today are going to be local example that is a very very um, familiar with us in Nigeria. Then, essential for developing regulations and guidelines for chemical safety. For example, as a student of environmental biology, once you are studying toxicology, it will really help you, it will really guide you that everything must be taken with moderation. For example, water is good, but that water can become a poison if not taken in the right quantity, if it is not taken in the right route, and even sometimes it might not even be the quantity, the routes, the route of exposure is another thing. So if the route, instead of you to eat, to use your mouth to eat a certain food, and instead of that doing that, you are now sniffing it, you are now passing it through the through your nose. So irrespective of the quantity, in that regard, the route of exposure is not the right one. So if it is not following the normal route of exposure, it will also be regarded as a poison. In fact, just like I said in the first presentation, that I told us that we are constantly being exposed to poison. It is poison that is surrounding us. So that is now the principle of toxicology. As a student of toxicology, I have told you that there are certain terms and terminologies that you must know, nothing less than three, nothing less than three different ways of defining them. When we talk about dose response relationship, this is the correlation, the study of the correlation between the dose of a substance and the resulting effect. So you are trying to study the dose response relationship. Then another one is that it helps us to determine the leather dose and other toxicity level. So dose response relationship help us determine the leather dose and the other toxicity level. So it will help you to be able to know which one is the acceptable, which one can cause harm, the dosage that can cause harm, the dosage that can cause that can lead to poisoning, so and so on and so forth. Then the response relationship, those response relationship is also a help us to understand the response, that response increase in response uh, is with respect to the dosage. So but although there may be a plateau after a certain level, That is, sometimes there will be a level that it will no longer be detectable, but the higher the dosage, the higher or the increase, the response to it. So then, in the first lecture, we also made mention of the acute versus chronic toxicity. Acute toxicity, these are effects that occur shortly after exposure. So immediately when somebody inhale something, or when somebody is exposed to certain poison, if the effect is immediate, that is acute toxicity. And chronic toxicity is when there is long term effect that occur after repeated or prolonged exposure. So example is cancer. Cancer will not just develop in a day or within a month. So it must have started at the elementary level, and at that elementary level it is what is called tumour. So before it will finally be diagnosed as cancer. So all these are part of chronic toxicity. Then both forms of toxicity can lead to irreversible damage to organs or tissues. So don't say because it is a short term it is less poisonous. No, irrespective or no matter the level of the effect, even if it is long term, if it's going to be short term, it can lead to irreversible damage of some organs or certain tissues. Then I told you part of the branches of toxicology is environmental toxicology. So what do we understand by environmental toxicology? This is the study of how toxic substances have their effects on the ecosystem. So how toxic substances affect or impact on ecosystem. Then number two, environmental toxicology focuses only on pollutants and contaminants in the environment, that is in water, the soil, and in on air. So environmental toxicology is not dealing with the effects on human. It is actually going to be the effect on the environment where man lives. Okay. Then it also addresses the risk posed by chemicals to both wildlife and human. So types of environmental pollutants include heavy metals such as lead, mercury, and cadmium. Then pesticide, example is organophosphates and herbicides. The third category of environmental pollutants is persistent organic pollutants, which is called POPs. These are chemicals that remain in the environment for a long period of time. So which you might not even discover it until after a long period of then what do we mean by bioaccumulation and biomagnification? When we are talking about bioaccumulation, this is a gradual accumulation of toxic substances in an organism over a certain period of time. Bioaccumulation, it is going to take some time, then it will now become accumulated in the system. It will become accumulated in the environment. So gradual, it is gradual. Then it also occurs when an organism absorb toxic substances or toxic chemicals faster than it can eliminate them. So it is one thing for the it is one thing to accumulate toxic chemicals, it is another thing to be able to eliminate them. So example is mercury in fish. This is a typical example of bioaccumulated chemicals. Then biomagnification, this is the increase in concentration of toxic substances as we move up the food chain. Don't forget what we mean if you are talking about food chain. Food chain is the a kind of feeding relationship feeding relationship in an ecosystem. For example, you have producers, primary producers, you have consumers, you have tertiary, secondary, and all what you have. So, biomagnification will have to do with the increase in concentration of toxic substances as we move up the food chain. So, what we are saying is that if plants bioaccumulate a certain substance, man and his domestic animal will go and feed on it. So that substance will now be bioaccumulated by that primary consumer in of that. Then when the animal dies off, if a higher animal now feed on that one, that is also telling you that it is. So it is also talking about predators at higher trophic level accumulate more toxins. So the at the primary level, that is with plants, with primary producers, you will just see that there are certain substances that will not, in terms of accumulation, is not going to be much. But when you get to predators so example is DDT in birds of prey. Okay, so a case study of lead poisoning in Nigeria. So in 2015, over 28 people in Niger State were affected. 28,000 people in Niger State were affected by lead poisoning due to gold mining activities. So this actually lead to lead contamination from mines, which caused serious health issues, including developmental delay in children as well as in kidney damage. Then the Nigerian government and the international agencies implemented what is called the air screening and remediation program. So in order to be able to get over that, but you should know that an example, a typical example of what is called lead poisoning took place in 2015 in Nigeria. So what do we mean by risk assessment in toxicology? This is nothing but risk analysis, which include identifying potential hazard and assessing the likelihood of getting exposed. So is also the same thing as quantifying, documenting the quantity of potential impacts on human health or on his environment. So this is what is called risk assessment analysis, and it also determines the necessary safety measures to be able to mitigate the impact, to be able to reduce the risks. So by the time you start studying the risk assessment uh, in on human health, that will give you a kind of clue of what you also need to put on, the measure you need to put on in order to make sure that it is very safe for you. Then risk assessment also include hazard identification, identifying substances or situations that could cause harm. So sometimes part of a risk assessment will not be that after the risk must have taken place, not after the poisoning must have taken place, but also be able to read them even before they occur. An example is chemical spills, toxic air pollutant, and contaminated water. We can say that we want to study the effects of those chemicals or pollutants, air pollutant, on certain contaminated water. Then it also include biological agents such as bacteria or viruses. So any assessment you are doing, you have to also include, and you have to take into consideration that biological agents are also involved. Case study of pesticide exposure in Nigeria. This is another case where wherein in 2018 a report from Nigerian Ministry of Agriculture highlighted the misuse of pesticide in farming regions. So up to today, It was documented as far back as 2018, whereby the Ministry of Health, I mean Ministry of Agriculture, predicted and discovered that certain pesticides were misused by certain farmers. So farmers in rural areas were exposed to high level of organophosphates. Organophosphates are the one of the components of most pesticides, leading to poisoning incidents and deaths. So as a result of higher exposure of farmers into pesticide, it has led to cases of poisoning as well as deaths were also reported in Nigeria. The government and NGO have worked on educating farmers on proper pesticide. So it is your job as an environmental biologist to educate your community, educate people around you, and to be able to tell them about the impact of toxin or poison around them. So prevention and management of toxicity. How can we prevent and manage toxicity? So number one has to do with toxicological intervention. This include detoxification. Detoxification means removal of that toxin from the body. You will just see that sometimes they will just ask you to go and take some concussion so that what might be the poison you'll be able to vomit them out. So that is a part of detoxification or removal of that, or you can suppress their effect. For example, there are sometimes that when you take some poison, they will just ask you, oh, go and take milk. So you are trying to use milk in order to be able to detoxify your system, removing from the body. So another one is antidotes, substances that counteract the effect of poison. Milk, palm oil, they will just ask you, oh, please go and drink take palm oil, and by the time you take some of these antidotes, you just discover that they are no longer to be poisoning. They are no longer to be poisoning or toxic to you any longer. Then apart from that, another way of prevention and management of toxicity include supportive treatment such as oxygen or intravenous fluid. Sometimes whenever they discover that you are being exposed to poison, they will just ask you to lie down so that you have bed rest, or they will start transfusing blood to you, giving you oxygen support, and so on and so forth. It's also a way of preventing and managing this. So just like I said, this is the essay question, and the question is to discuss the concepts of bioaccumulation as well as biomagnification. So you have to do that. Then we have also to provide examples of environmental pollutants that undergo these processes. So you have to do that as well. Then you have to explain their impacts on human health and ecosystem. So I am going to give you the format you are going to follow. If you do not follow this format, that means you are not going to be scored at the end of the day. Follow this format that I'm going to give you now for you to be able to get the full mark of this essay question. Okay, so I want to believe that you have already um, written, or you have already documented this essay question. Okay, now under that, I want to test your knowledge and understanding about that question. So you will define key terms and concepts, key terms and concepts about it. Then you have to also analyze critical thinking, whereby you will apply knowledge to case study and real world example. You'll be able to relate case studies to what happens in real life, that is around you. Then in terms of your clarity and structure, I want you to organize your ideas very, very clearly. So with logical flow, you'll be able to identify or analyze them from the most important to the most important. Then you are also to look at use examples and references. Use examples and references, so whereby you are going to provide relevant and real-world examples in each case. So types of toxicity. Acute toxicity, this is effect that occur after exposure. We have made mention of this. Another thing is subacute toxicity that we have not actually made mention. These are toxic effect from repeated exposure over a short period of time. It must be repeated. Subacute, don't forget that acute is short term, but if you want to understand sub, that means it is talking about repeated exposure over a short period of time. Then this also occur within days or weeks. It's not going to be up to months, just within days or weeks. Then examples include exposure to pesticide in farming, which of ten lead to respiratory issues. Okay, then I said routes of exposure to toxic substances. What are the major route of exposure? It could be by inhalation. If it is inhalation, that is breathing in of toxic chemicals in air, dust or fumes. It could come in form of air, it come in form of dust. The poison can be in form of dust, or the poison can be in form of fumes. So, and the common route, this is the most common route for air pollutants and industrial chemicals. So anytime you are talking about air pollutants and industrial pollutants, that is like chemical, it is mainly through inhalation, through being exposed to it. So an example is breathing in toxic fumes from industrial emission. Then another route of exposure of toxic substances include ingestion, that is swallowing toxic substances via contaminated food or water. Then number two is a common route for pesticide exposure and foodborne illnesses. Ingestion is the most common route for pesticide exposure. Then example include ingesting contaminated fish leading to mercury poisoning. So that is very, very important. Then it can also be dermal exposure. Whenever you come across the word derma is talking about the skin. So toxin that enters through the skin, through the body skin. So it gets into the body as a result or through the what? Through the skin. That is a dermal exposure. Then it's very common to herbicide and chemical burns. So this is very common when you have herbicide and chemical burn. Then example include skin absorption of a pesticide in farm workers. Okay, skin absorption of pesticide in farm workers. So toxicity of heavy chemicals. So how do we have heavy chemicals being what? So it is like lead, for example. It is found in plants, in paints, in pipes, from the soil and in the dust. These are the sources of lead. Then another one is that it has its own effect on nervous system, especially in children. It have affect the nervous system, the kidney functioning, as well as production of certain blood. So whenever you are talking of lead poisoning, so it will have effect on the nervous system, on the kidney, and in blood production. That means the immune system might eventually being affected, since blood is being produced from the bone marrow. So and if somebody is having lead poisoning, That means it's going to affect the blood production. So it's going to lead to immature production of certain blood components like the white blood cell. They are going to be found in juvenile in immature, premature states. So example is lead poisoning in children from old house paint in Nigerian home. So that can happen. Then another one is mercury, which is commonly found in industrial waste, mining and some fish species. It also affects the nervous system and can cause developmental delays in children. Example include mercury poisoning from gold mining activities in Nigeria. Then another one, the arsenic poisoning, which occurs naturally in groundwater and some industrial processes. It is known as carcinogen because it can cause skin lesions and internal organ damage, skin lesions. An example is exposure from contaminated drinking waters in rural area. So then toxicology in agriculture in form of pesticide, in form of fertilizer, in form of herbicide. So in pesticide, we are talking of organophosphates. In herbicide, we are talking of runoff. That one will depend on when there is erosion. Okay, and fertilizer, that one will is very easy to lead into contribute to eutrophication and harmful algal algal around the water bodies. Okay, then overuse of fertilizer leading to toxic algal blooms. So that is that. Then what are the human health impact of toxic chemical? Number one, it will have carcinogenic effect. Carcinogenic means that it's going to have direct impact on the DNA, thereby altering, thereby affecting, thereby disfiguring. Example, the DNA, the structure of DNA, or it can serve as an intercalating. It can get itself intercalating or contributing, competing with some component of DNA. So example of that is asbestos and benzene in industrial workers. Then it will also have neuro neurotoxic effect. That one has for example lead exposure, which affects children, affecting their brain development. Then apart from neurotoxic, it also have endocrine disruption, chemicals that interfere with hormone system in the body. Example is BPA, that is bisphenol A, disrupting reproductive hormones in the human race. So and we also have a case of water contamination in Nigeria. In 2019, the Nigerian government discovered high level of industrial waste and heavy metals in rivers and lakes, which led to lead, mercury and cadmium, which were found in drinking water in several communities. So at that point in time, they eventually conducted a kind of investigation. When they collect water samples from several communities, they discover certain or higher concentration of lead, mercury and cadmium. So the impact is increased incidences of kidney diseases, skin lesions as well as cancer in the affected areas. So there's no way you will study toxicity or toxicology without dealing with what are the environmental protection law that we have. So we have Nigeria National environmental policy. So they have their own aims, and the primary aim of all these agencies are to protect our ecosystem, to protect the environment as well as protect the human life around. So prevention, I will have mentioned this. Okay, so now the summary of what we have said so far. Number one, we are in this presentation, we were able to talk about toxicology and the study of poison. their effect and how harmful are they on the living organism as well as the ecosystem. Also in this presentation, we have come across types of toxicity which include acute, chronic and subacute. When you talk about acute, that is short term effect, and when you talk about chronic toxicity, you are talking about long term effect. And when you are talking of subacute toxicity, this is studying the effect from repeated short term, e.g. pesticide. And also in this presentation, we were able to also say something about dose response relationship, where I said the higher the dose, the higher the dose, the more the effect could be. So there must be a kind of correlation between the dose of a substance and what is going to be the resulting effect on it. So the route of exposure can be through inhalation, through injection, or through dermal absorption. Okay, so then I also made mention of environmental toxicity or toxicology, which is the study of how pollutants affect ecosystem and human health. What are the key pollutants? For example, heavy metals like lead, mercury, pesticide, persistent organic pollutant, that is POP. Then apart from that, I was able to differentiate between what is called bioaccumulation and biomagnification. Biomagnification is talking about the increase in the effect as we move higher in the food chain. So that is accumulation of toxin in organism and up the food chain. Then also in this presentation, I've been able to make cite examples of three case studies in Nigeria that happened in Nigeria. The first one was lead poisoning in Nigeria, which was reported to have taken place in 2015, which affected 20,000 people due to gold mining activities. So in Niger State, that is case study one. Then another one is a pesticide exposure in Nigeria. This also take place in the it also takes place in Nigeria. That was in 2018. An example is the organophosphate poisoning that they detected in rural farming region. And lastly, I also made mention of water contamination as an example in Nigeria, which also took place in 2019, where we have high level of industrial waste and in drinking heavy metals in drinking water sources. So these are part of the summary of what we have said so far. So going back to the question which I said, so it is time for you. You have between now and the next 20 minutes to submit. You have between now and next 20 minutes to submit in the comment section. So please, you are to this is the format you are going to follow. It's going to be should be divided into four. The first one is will be testing your knowledge and understanding. The second one will be talking about analysis and critical thinking, then clarity and structure, then the use of examples and references. So, and this is, I have three questions here. So, I want you to focus on this and for you to be able to submit before the next few minutes. That is 18 more minutes. 18 more minutes. Don't forget, you have to submit in the comment section immediately. Submit in the comment section. Don't put your matric number, just your name, just the question. Since you have your name as your login details, I don't need your matric number, I don't need your school, the name of your school. What I need is just for you to put the question right in the comment section. Answer right in the comment section. Don't forget, once I end this presentation, that marks the end of your chance to submit. Yeah, you have something like 15 minutes more. Okay. Don't submit on WhatsApp page. You have to submit on the comment section on the YouTube. Submit on the comment section. Don't forget to like and share, like and comment, like and comment. You have to discuss the concept of bioaccumulation and biomagnification. Question 2, you have to provide examples of environmental pollutants that undergo these processes. That is the process of bioaccumulation and biomagnification. And lastly, you have to explain the overall impact of bioaccumulated and biomagnified substance on human health and its ecosystem. On human health and its ecosystem. Okay. Don't submit on WhatsApp. Don't submit on WhatsApp. You have about 14 more minutes. 14 minutes more. Few minutes more. Once I close, once I close, I'm going to comments, and any other comment or any other assignment that comes thereafter will be disregarded. It will be disregarded. So you have this time to do the quiz, attempt the question, and follow the format I gave. This is the format. This is the format. Okay, for each question. Format for each question. We have about 9 minutes more. About 9 minutes more. Okay, we have about 7 minutes more. 7 minutes more. 7 minutes more. Okay. Okay, just 4 minutes more. 4 minutes more, and once I log out of here, I am going to put a comment. I'm going to put a comment at the end of the day. Any submission that comes in thereafter will not be taken. It will not be taken. Please use this window period of 5 minutes to complete your work. Do it so that it will be captured. Okay, I have only few more seconds. Okay, yeah, thank you. I can see, I can see some people that have submitted. Okay, Olangbero Rofia, Jamiu Bello, twice. Uh-huh. Rofia, how many times did you submit? Olabisi Akintola, Amsat is my Islamiyat, Akinola. So these are the list of, okay, yes, I can remember. It has to be 3 questions. I can see. So, um, Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your listening attention for today. So far, so good. Have a very fruitful um, discussion today. So, it's on that note that I want to um, end this presentation. So, I want to thank you all for your listening attention. So, don't forget any response that comes in after now will not be taken. I think I have only few people that participated. So, um, okay. So, thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all.